Hello, friends, and welcome to our Secular Buddhist Essentials program. It's another beautiful Sunday and a great day for teachings. My name is Venerable Tarpa. I'm so thrilled everybody's back. It's great to be doing these Secular Buddhist Essentials classes. Again, we had the winter off, and we're just getting back into it all. I mentioned last week that we're just about done with part one of the text. Through the fall, we did the introduction. We covered a little history, and we just happened to be coming back in the more extended presentation of secular Buddhism. So in the beginning of the text, we give a short presentation of secular Buddhism so people know where they're going, they get an idea. But then, of course, somewhere in the text, we wanted a really deep presentation, and this is the middle of it. So last week, it was entitled Introduction to Secular Buddhism, and this one is entitled Spirituality and Secular Buddhism. And so, and this is kind of answering a lot of questions like, where exactly do we fit in with the traditions? What aspects of Buddhism are we going to embrace and share, and which aspects do we leave to individuals to share on their own? We've mentioned also before that what really makes SBT special is our curriculum, because we don't believe we're in a position to tell people what to think, what to believe, what to do. Our curriculum is really what holds us all together, because we can have a vast audience of all kinds of different beliefs, which is exciting and wonderful. But it's that curriculum that is the binding glue that holds us all together, and it's a curriculum that's it's in the middle way. It's something that strongly secular or atheists can agree with, and also more religious people can agree with as well. And that's my job, is to create a curriculum that everybody can appreciate and accept. So with that said, I wanted to talk about the term spirituality and how it pertains to Buddhism. So first of all, the term spiritual or spirituality are not always clear. There's great confusion about those, I believe. Traditionally, they've been used as nearly synonymous with religion. However, nowadays, they're often used to assert the opposite, the adherence to spiritual values without adherence to a religion. So obviously the terms pertain to the notion of spirit, but this term can be equally ambiguous. Within religion, spirit is often synonymous with soul, essential essence, animating force, or consciousness itself. However, the secular usage of the word often pertains to temperament or dispositions, as in a spirit of adventure, right? More related to personality. For myself, I define spirit as our will, our determination, our vigor, our spirit towards life, as in the phrase, the lost broke their spirit. I think the best way to understand the term is to define a spiritual person. A spiritual person is someone who embraces many of the tenets of religion, which may or not include a belief in a higher power, a God, universal consciousness, or the mystical, while at the same time rejecting the dogma, hierarchy, authority, and absolutism of traditional Buddhism. Spiritual people often assert their view with the popular axiom, I'm spiritual but not religious. We've all heard that, right? Very popular expression. The spiritual tend to be guided by intuition, learning more, leaning more towards agnosticism, embracing the mystery and wonder of their existence without a need to hold strict beliefs or views. In other words, spirituality is a larger and more encompassing term. I myself see the term as representing the, the dimension of human experience that's beyond logic, reason, and the quantifiable, and what can be rationally explained. So it's the realm of beauty and wonder, of mystery and awe. It's that which recognizes the sacred and profound, and that which apprehends what's worth devotion and reverence. Spirituality encompasses our felt sense of connection and belonging, of purpose and meaning, and that which is greater than ourselves. It's the discovery of grace, authenticity, and truth, while at the same time, it has a humility to it that acknowledges and accepts the limitations of our understanding, a wide eyed curiosity for what's yet to be discovered. It's learning to be trusting, accepting, and at ease with uncertainty and the unknown. Today, many prominent teachers advocate using the term spirituality in its more secular context, separate from any religious association. And this includes the Dalai Lama himself, Stephen Batchelor, Sam Harris, Alan Wallace, and Greg Epstein, which is a famous humanist, just to name a few. What do you guys think of that idea? So, do you think with SBT it's safe to bring this word spirituality into our practice? And does it rub anybody the wrong way? What do you guys think? David, please.
Personally, I have.
Are you frozen? I think David's frozen. Why don't we give him a second? Dana?
Um, I like what you said. I don't know about other people, but without wonder and the other things you mentioned, I don't think I'd be attracted to SBT. It would be awful dry.
Yeah, wouldn't it? To me, when you get rid of spirituality, it's almost like you're just flattening life out, right? It's like all the magic and wonders kind of gone. I think it really keeps coming back to how we define spirit. Where religious people believe it to be soul or something like that. But when we think about it, used like in popular literature, when we talk about a spirited child, right? The spirit of the town, that's a very useful and very appropriate, very authentic term. It really exists, doesn't it? Oh, Sampo. David, sorry, you froze when you were sharing and we didn't hear what you shared. Would you
Oh,
like to share
okay.
again?
Yeah. Uh, Personally, I have no problems at all with the word spirituality. My only question, reservation
Well, we
Oh.
got half of it. Let's give him a second and look at the other half.
would be the image and message it sends out. Can you not hear me, guys?
We got
Mhm.
most of it. You're having some internet trouble. You could type it out
Okay.
if you'd like, and we'll read it.
Yeah.
Sangpo.
Yeah, I think for me spirituality is okay, because I am secular, I am atheist, agnostic, whatever. So for me, spirituality probably does define. why I am drawn to secular Buddhism, and why I'm drawn to SBT, because it does have origins.
Yeah,
It's not so for me that aspect of spirituality is fine, but I think, as David was about to probably say, it depends on how it's defined and how it's put across, and but we're not putting it across with any religious dogma or
that's right.
anything like that. I think we're doing
And
the
clearly, that's the point of today's teaching, is to define it and to acknowledge that it's okay. You know, the first time I heard the term was, or that it was okay to use in a secular way, was from Harris, uh, from Sam Harris. So many of you probably know Sam Harris. He's one of the world's famous atheists, the four horsemen of the atheist group. And so a staunch atheist just rejects religion in any sense of the word. And in his book, which I think was just called Awakening, he makes this huge argument for atheists, humanists, secular people to take back this term, that it is a vital part of life, and I couldn't agree more. And I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, the Dalai Lama says the same in his book, Beyond Religion. So there's some really good arguments for it. Shiva, please.
Tarpa, can you repeat your definition of spirituality? Like you just read a few minutes ago.
I did. Well, the one that I thought was most captivating was the one in which spiritual people call themselves spiritual but not religious. The whole definition was quite long.
Yeah, yeah. Just the
Um,
first few lines, few sentences.
okay, give me 1 second. Let me find it. Think. Define spiritual. A spiritual person who is one who embraces the tenets of religion, which may or not have a belief in God or the supernatural, but they reject dogma, hierarchy, authority, absolutism, and traditional religion. Is that the one you were thinking of?
No, you said something about that which defies logic, reasoning. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. An adherence to spiritual values without adherence to religion. Um, I'm sorry, I'm looking for it. There was a lot here. Oh, it's a larger, more encompassing. Here it is. I see the term as representing a dimension of human experience that's beyond logic, reason, and the quantifiable, and what can be rationally explained. Was that it? You want me to
Yeah.
keep going?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I got it.
What do you think of that?
I'm not. I mean, I need to think. I don't agree with that, but we can discuss later, maybe.
Coming from the scientist.
No.
Well, I think scientists are oftentimes realists, where, you know, they like to nail down everything. Everything has a category, but clearly there has to be something outside of that, right? Like I think a lot of the great scientists are the ones that really contemplate all that's not known, or how little we understand about things. To me, that's kind of moving towards the realm of spirituality. Thank you, Shiva. Wangmo?
Yes, it's interesting that people who are in this group that are secular are saying that they like the spirituality and they can accept that. And to me, as coming as somebody who's more religious, I like the spirituality aspect in SBT because it makes it so that I can be an SBT as a more spiritual person. So I think it works for people coming from both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. It's kind of a binding term that brings us all together. I like that. Ethan? Namdak?
Well, as for me, I've always thought of the dichotomy between religion and secularism, because I feel like spirituality can be both secular or religious or in that spectrum, but I don't see it as like a secularism versus spirituality. I see it more as secularism versus religiosity. That's my perspective on that.
We do too.
And I personally, I think spirituality is an important, healthy human practice in my view.
Me too.
Although it can go dark, but I won't talk about that.
Yeah, I think if I was to bring it down to one word, it would just be wonder. It's just this wonder and appreciation for the magnificence, and as an ignosis, embracing all that we don't know that's about to be discovered in the future. It's just extraordinary. I'm left with that awe, and that awe I can't put in a box somewhere. I'm in awe of it because we don't know what it is. David, you want to try again?
Okay, I'll give it last shot.
There's your last shot. Sangpo, would you like to say another thing?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Personally, I love the word spirituality. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, you're having troubles, David.
I just thought I would freeze there, just so. Yeah, so I mean, for me, spirituality, I mean, it is almost like looking at my own inner path, just understanding, my own essence, values, meaning of life, things like that. The things that, you're talking about that we're in awe of, the surprises, the understanding of, what it is to be here, to be, what am I here for? What is my purpose? All those things I think linked to spirituality, but and none of these have an answer within religious dogma. For me,
All those existential
yeah, that's
questions
the
that
word.
are
Existential,
in our soul,
absolutely.
are those
Yeah, yeah,
philosophical
exactly.
questions that I don't believe can be answered through research or science.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
why am I here, and why do I exist instead of not exist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, let's move on to the next part. So, uh, yeah, well, I think we're all on the same page there. Um, the next part is on spiritual beauty. So let me explain this. So this came about, and I've written an article about a lot of this, probably you've seen in the newsletters, but nevertheless, we're doing it today because it has to go in the book at this part. So we're writing it. So I was, I had a whole bunch of old tantric Dharma implements, horns and whistles and drums and stuff you use for Buddhist practice back when I thought I was a tantrika. Anyways, I wanted to give them a good home, and I found a local Dharma center. And some of them were quite valuable. A lot of them were made from human bone and very rare, and some of the instruments were like of excellent quality. And so I really wanted to give them a good home. Nevertheless, I found a local center. It was a Kaju center, and I called them up, told them I wanted to donate these possessions, and they welcomed me. I went and visited them. It was the first time that I've been back to a more monastic setting or a more Dharma center setting, and been around more traditional practitioners for a long time. I've been, touring around Europe, and nevertheless, I went and we had some tea. I offered them these items. They were looking them over, and one thing that hit me that the wonderful lady practitioner who was going through it. I forgot what traditional practitioners do. So with each item, she would pick it up, she'd touch it to the top of her head, say a prayer, and say a mantra, look it over. But what I had forgotten was the beauty of this kind of devotional practice, right? And I was kind of quite taken back. It kind of threw me back into my old days in the monastery, where, when I first started in Buddhism, I was hardly a secular Buddhist. I was into all of the mysticism and magic. I wanted to be a tantric practitioner. I had all the implements and put them on my table and had the hats and everything. And I was really into it. And slowly I got into secular Buddhism. But it really made me reflect on it and reflect that, there was a quality. I guess I didn't write it in the text, but now that I'm thinking about it, it was a quality of spirituality that, and I noticed it because I noticed the lack of it at the stage I was currently at, but I just saw the beauty in it, their devotion to the Dharma. There was a spiritual grace to it, and I thought it was just absolutely lovely. And then it made me think that as a secular Buddhist, and this is when I was just starting SBT, as a secular Buddhist, was I missing something? Was I losing something? At one point in my practice, my secular Buddhist practice, I was kind of rejecting most anything that even smelled religious. And at the time, I was trying to figure out how I would share secular Buddhism, but nevertheless, I was quite secular. And I used to love having an altar at home and practicing in front of it. So anyways, I abandoned all of that. But then it really made me wonder, am I missing something? Maybe something vital in Buddhist practice. And I thought, am I literally throwing the baby out with the bathwater, becoming a secular Buddhist? Am I just throwing all out that I don't fully appreciate? And then it made me think for a long time, is this something that we could really harness? Because there's an energy to it. You could see it in the practitioners. I could remember it from my own practice that, and of course, we call this devotional practice. And there's a great energy, there's a great inspiration to this kind of devotion. And then the thought occurred to me, could we harness that in secular Buddhism? Is that purely a religious thing? Or could we harness it within secular Buddhism to improve our practice? So I spent a lot of time thinking about that and working with it. And what I came to the conclusion was, looking at my notes, that I wondered if this spiritual beauty could help perhaps be a valuable tool for us, right? Possibly even an essential factor in developing the higher virtue needed to complete one's integration of their path, right? We have the threefold practice. The second one is higher virtue, and devotion is a great part of that. And again, I remembered when I embraced devotion, and what in the text I say communing with the sacred. My life was a dance with the profound, possessing a mind that was open to the mystery and wonder of existence. Now, with that said, clearly there was a naivete to it, right? I was, I believed that, it rained on a Tuesday. That was a sign that something was going to happen. Get your hair cut on Fridays is a bad omen. We had all those kind of silly thoughts. But there was a thirst for this mystical experience that I think sometimes is kind of lost. And sometimes I wonder if the secular Buddhist path, if we're not careful, we can kind of take the spirit out of the practice, right? And I really think that that this spiritual beauty is an essential aspect of the path. It doesn't have to be religious, and it could simply be being inspired. I've been wanting to write a text on blessings and how they relate to secular Buddhism. As you can see, I'm spending a lot of time navigating the gray area between religious and secular. And the idea of blessings, of course, as a secular, I rejected it. And then I thought, well, when I ordained with the Dalai Lama, I really received something. It was obvious. But it didn't have to be something mysterious. They would call it a blessing. All my precepts became so easy to follow. There just seemed to be a lot there. And then I thought, why couldn't that just be inspiration? Why does that have to be some kind of mystical quality? That meeting the Dalai Lama, ordaining with the Dalai Lama, having this amazing experience in the Dalai Lama's temple in Dharamsala, the level of inspiration in that experience, that we could call that a blessing in secular Buddhism. Maybe we just call it inspiration, but I do believe in that. That you could meet your hero in an occupation like Pasang meeting his country western hero, and that could inspire you to really put effort into your own music and write songs. So there is kind of a blessing to it, isn't there? And so there's actually quite a few topics related to this that I wanted to talk about. But should we take a moment? Does anybody want to add anything? Dana.
I think that already in SBT there is some of this and that the way that you've written the beginning of the meditations, where is a ritual and that we do together in preparing for going into our calm abiding. And I know that you're shortening the intro there and taking away some of the mindfulness of the body, but to do that together and going into that place of meditation is a ritual, and that and then also in the meditation that Wagmo did today, we're asking us to go into the body, into our heart, and that and then to expand our heart. That again is that we're doing that together, and that it's a ritual, and then so I
we're
think
on the same we're on the same page of that, Dana. We're not changing anything. We shortened and made an advanced calm abiding for advanced members who would like to get directly into practice, but those things are not changing, and those are a cornerstone.
I don't think there's any race to get to enlightenment.
Yeah, well said. But there's no danger of losing those. And actually, in the next part, we're going to be talking about rites and rituals as they pertain to secular Buddhism. So if you give me just a little bit, we'll get to that in a second. I think now we're going to kind of talk more about this idea of spiritual beauty. And David, you want to try again?
Okay, my last try. Yeah, I was saying that I personally loved the word spirituality. And with your last point, inspiration, I find inspiration a beautiful word for what you experience and what I'm sure we've all experienced it sometimes. My reservation about both the word spirituality and the word blessing in particular is the message that it sends out to the world, the world as a whole. They
Yeah,
don't
you've mentioned that.
understand
You've mentioned that before, but there is a place to redefine words, and like Sam Harris trying to redefine spirituality for the secular audience. I think we can be brave and bold and try to redefine some of these words. Some of us are really triggered by the sound of words. And I would say where some of us have a little problem with it because they are just words. The word blessing to me sounds quite religious, but there's a difference between thinking about it on your cushion alone, and there's a difference with me engaging with people. And some of these things are are somewhat useful. Like people ask me for blessings, and I don't give a religious blessing. I used to say I don't believe in blessings, uh, but there really is such a thing. But whether it's real or not is one thing. If somebody asks for a blessing and I can say a little prayer, touch them on the top of the head, and they're inspired by that, it is some kind of blessing. So, but maybe blessing again doesn't have to be mystical. Maybe blessing is just being there and influencing people in a positive way. Zopa, please.
Hi, Venerable. Yeah, do you think there's a gap between this concept of spiritual beauty and the natural world? Because even if you remove humans from the natural world, there is ugliness, there is harm, there is, destruction, and I feel like this idea of spiritual beauty, within the context of either SBT or Buddhism, does it capture that
You bring up
like
you bring up an excellent point, but the thing is that spiritual beauty isn't meant to negate the ugly. Just like in common language, we have two terms. We have beauty and we have ugly. When I use the word beauty, it doesn't negate that things are ugly in the world. Spiritual beauty is a term meant for an array of feelings and perceptions and things like that. So it stands on its own, but it is related more to, instead of aesthetic beauty or things like that, it's related much more to this ethereal kind of thing. And also, the natural world is a huge part of spirituality. Many people, when you ask them what's spirituality, they would say that the natural world. So, yeah, spiritual beauty can encompass, in a sense, it can encompass what you want it to. You can use the term as you wish to use it as well. Namdak.
Whoops, I forgot to unmute myself. I have just one thought about that term mystical in the sense that things are only described as mystical until they're scientifically explained.
Mystery, yeah.
People used to think that lightning was caused by a god or something like that, and now we know it's just a perfectly scientifically explainable incident. So just because something has some sort of mystical or spiritual nature, that doesn't mean that there's not actually some sort of explainable source for that. We just don't know what it is.
I often have problems with finding the right word for that.
Yeah.
Right? This, so we got mystical, we got otherworldly, religious, and, so miraculous. Mystery, mystical comes from a real word, mystery. Miracle comes from miraculous. So you're right. They hang there between the two. But I'm often looking for better terms for that. So I agree with you. Mystical seems to be the best one I found so far. Shiva? He's got a serious face, everybody. Watch out. As a scientist, I have...
Tarpa, are you using this word or is it being used it's sort of to describe things either like Ethan said, unknown, or for which people don't have clarity. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you said something that defies, something we don't have a logical or reasonable, but what can exist outside causal, causality? Like,
I understand. Is it the word mystical that you're referring to again?
No, the word spiritual.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about this whole realm of unknown, right? So, it can consist of things that we have a belief in, but we don't have evidence. It can be about things that are unproven. But it can also be superstitious things or things that are just that most people would reject with any common sense. So it's a pretty big world of it all. I don't really have a word for that whole world of things. Maybe that's one we need to come up with. Yeah. Just the unknown, right? But yeah, I agree with you, Shiva. There's not a lot of clarity there.
No, my point is, people are labeling things that either they don't have clarity to see things as they exist, or like or like what Ethan was saying, which is not known yet. For instance, say like karma. The Buddha says, like, to quote you, don't think how it works. Meaning he knows it. Don't think of how it works. You may go mad thinking about it.
Yeah.
So for somebody who can't see it, they label that as a spiritual, and so that was my point.
I think you're exactly right. It's kind of used as a catch-all, but also spiritual is used for believing in things just because they've been passed down for generations. And in a lot of ways, with some religious aspects, I think we all know that there's people that clearly wouldn't say they believed in certain things, but they just go along with it because it's part of a tradition or custom. So I think it's a very complex subject. I think they all fit in there. Yeah. Hey, very cool. So one of the last parts I wanted to talk about, so there's some terms that fit into this whole idea of what we've been talking about. So let's go over some of these terms. One of them is the term devotion, right? Devotion, faith, belief, the sacred, right? These are all generally seen as religious terms, even though clearly we use them secularly as well. Like devotion is a great one that, we're devoted to our partners, our children, families, communities. People are devoted to their careers, their hobbies, let alone sports teams, right? People are ready to kill each other over their sports teams. You could be devoted to your favorite musicians or celebrities. So we're also devoted to things like our values. What's right and fair, what's good. I'm devoted to the Buddhist teachings, clearly. I'm also devoted to my students and to humanity in general. So devotion is clearly something that can be used in both contexts. And belief is similar. Oftentimes belief is seen as being secular, religious, but clearly it's in the realm of secular, because most everything we go about in our day is based on belief, right? We believe that this will happen, and we believe our family will behave in a certain way, friends will behave. Belief is just a constant part of our lives in every way. But the important thing to really understand and utilize belief properly, we have to first understand it properly, right? And simply said, belief is not fact. Belief is not fact. Belief implicitly suggests a degree of uncertainty, all right? Meaning that to believe something is true is to acknowledge that you don't know it to be true. You don't know it as a fact. And then we have some terms like sacred, and that sounds very religious to many people. But aren't there a lot of things in life that we, in a secular way, see sacred? Like Zopa was saying, a lot of people find nature sacred, right? We find sacred in beauty, like beautiful works of art. We find family sacred. People in committed relationships find their marriages sacred. We find our values. I know I find my values very sacred to me. Again, these terms are hard to define, aren't they? And what we deem sacred is unique and personal to each one of us, but the existence of the sacred itself seems indisputable. It seems like most anyone has something in their lives they find sacred. So, like in my own case, I adhere to a secular Buddhist ideology. I'm a monk, but my ideology, my path is secular Buddhist. And this means I regard the mystical, supernatural, or I disregard the mystical, supernatural, or religious. That's not part of my belief system. I disregard that. I'm clearly devoted to the Buddhist teachings, my students' community. I have personal beliefs, but I understand them as beliefs and not facts. And although I directly experience the sacred within each moment of my existence, I'm clearly not a religious person. I wonder if out of our blind rejection of anything religious, we've really thrown out that proverbial baby out with the bathwater. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about rites and rituals. What do you guys think about? So we're talking about these terms. We have terms like devotion, faith, belief, the sacred. Do these have a place in secular Buddhism? Are you guys comfortable with those words?
I am.
One more.
I'm not afraid of it.
Sounds good.
They were something that I found that I needed for my path. Before I became a Buddhist, I was a Catholic, and I was a very devoted Catholic. And when I came to Buddhism, I came in through secular Buddhism, and I found that was something that was very lacking for me. And I started, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Would anybody else like to share? And I promise you, Dana, we'll get to rites and rituals next. Dana, please.
I don't have any problem with anything that you're saying. It's very, but I don't know if I'm a secularist. When you say those words, and then I say, well, I'm all for that, and that I can believe ever what I decide to believe, not what.
Can you define? Do you mean secular Buddhist or secularist? Those are two very different things.
Yeah, I guess you're
A
right.
secularist is purely the rational world, I guess we call
Well,
it.
if you're
Where a
defining,
secular Buddhist is different.
if those words are part of SBT, then I guess, and that's secular, then I guess I'm a secular Buddhist. I guess.
Cool.
I guess. Oh, thank you for helping me with that.
You could also say a spiritual person. The one thing nice about the word spiritual
That's what I was
is,
before I came to SBT, I guess.
well, the one thing nice about spiritual is it's also nice about secular Buddhism that they're extremely wide terms. It's a giant tent that can welcome everybody. And that's why I like to see secular Buddhism as this spirituality. We don't tell people what to do. Everybody's welcome to come. The only thing with secular Buddhism is that we all share an interest in Buddhism and following the Buddhist path. So, so I think the word spirituality is the same, yeah. Thank you, Dana. Padma?
I've already put it in the text, but I just wanted to say there is that duality choice in all the religious words. A church is where two people meet with the same mindset, or it can be bigger than that if you so wish. So I think there needs to be an intelligent choice from everybody, the listener.
I think like David brought up that one of the things we have to think about is it okay for us to reinterpret these terms or use them in their secular way? Or is there a danger by using them we give people the wrong idea? So I guess what we're talking about, is it skillful to use these terms or not? We all know that we're allowed to. We all know that we can have different views of what those terms mean. They're only words, they're only terms. But it really comes down to, is it skillful for us to use those terms within the housing of secular Buddhism or not? David?
Aye. Yeah, that was exactly the point I was going to make, boss.
Catherine? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Well, we're birds of a feather, you and me. Hey, that's cool. So I like those words as well. And so that's what we're doing. We're exploring them. And as a Sangha, we're deciding, what's the most skillful approach for us to awaken all of humanity? Hey, let's talk about rites and rituals before Danny gets mad at me. So, so many people, especially secular, of course, look at rites and rituals as associated with religion. Probably the first thing that pops up, but it's completely inaccurate. Rites and rituals touch every aspect of our lives. Oh my goodness. And we use them to differentiate what's significant and important in our lives from what's mundane, right? Rites and rituals. We start with a kid's birthday party, right? Why do we sing the song? Why do we put the candles on the cake? Why do we give presents? They're all rituals, right? They're all rites and rituals. And the idea is that we're trying to mark this as a special day, as significant. And it's not just having special food or having friends over, right? There's much more to it. We really have rituals when it comes to things like that. And even things like certain holidays. We have ritual foods where at a certain holiday, you're supposed to serve this food. Birthday cake and ice cream for birthdays, depending on your culture, of course, right? We have rites and rituals are just everywhere. So we have patriotic rituals, saying the national anthem, we put our hands on our hearts, things like that. How about the rituals in sports? Have you seen all the crazy rituals, especially the players? They're so superstitious. But the way the games run, flipping a coin, all kinds of stuff. Tons of rites and rituals. And then, of course, we get into just simple ones. Like, how about things we never think of? Shaking hands, waving hello. How about applauding at a concert? Who thought of that, right? We all do it, but nobody ever says, hey, why are we doing this? We could just yell out, good job or something. Or saying God bless you when people sneeze. Rites and rituals are a huge aspect of human existence in and outside of religion. And again, the whole purpose is to mark something as important or significant. We use rites and rituals to also help facilitate things like memory. Buddhist monks chant the Buddha's words. This has become a ritual, a rite, but there was a real purpose to it, to remember the teachings. And so they're quite vital in our lives. Now the idea is, but how about with secular Buddhism? Is this a weird thing to do? And I can think of many rites or rituals that we do. First of all, let's talk about the word dogma as well. A few of us Sangha members have different ideas or definition of what dogma is. For me, I've always heard of dogma, understood dogma as is a authority. I'm not saying this very well. Putting their ideas and beliefs upon others. So say, okay, you want to join my religious group? This is what you have to believe. This is how the world was made. This is what happens to you after death. There's no asking your opinion about things. You're told what to do. This is dogma, and dogma can exist out of religion as well. Some of our Sangha members see dogma more as a word for ritual and rites. I don't believe that I wouldn't say that that's accurate, but nevertheless, people do think that. So for me, when I'm talking about dogma, I'm not talking about rites and rituals. I'm talking about authority oppressing people with views and forcing you to believe only what they want you to believe, which is, of course, the complete opposite of SBT. We like the opposite. We want you to have a broad range of experience and study and understanding. The broader your range of study, the more you can contrast and compare. Contrasting and comparing is truly the root of knowledge, of wisdom. And so I've had a very broad range of study, all the Buddhist traditions, all religions, philosophies, and I've really benefited from that. We recommend everybody does that as well. So how about getting back to rites and rituals? I'm trying to think of a couple that SBT does. Oh, here's a couple. So when we started, we weren't sure if we were going to offer refuge because we started very secular when that's 5 years ago. And we were thinking, well, is refuge a religious thing? Taking refuge. And many of the things in SBT, you might think that I chose and put them in, and actually it's not true. We all kind of chose them together. SBT has been an evolving organization, and everybody has input. So refuge, we weren't sure if that was secular. And we talked about it, and people thought, no, they really wanted, they liked the idea, they liked the rites and rituals, they liked the ceremony, they liked the commitment that was required for it. And then I viewed refuge more as the beginning of training rather than getting some kind of a blessing that you finally become an official Buddhist. And then we had the idea with refuge, well, what do we want to do? And we said, do we give refuge names? And I think originally I didn't want to, and people thought, no, they liked that part of it. It's supposed to symbolize being reborn into the Buddha Sangha. So then we thought, yeah, that's kind of cool. Then we said, well, what language, right? And I thought, first of all, I wanted to do everything in English. But English names, spiritual names are really dumb, Blue Cloud or Great Patient One. They just don't sound really good. And we were thinking Theravada or this or that, and all together we all decided, I have roots in Tibetan tradition. Let's do Tibetan names. So they weren't needed. We don't think we're getting any kind of religious benefit from it. We do understand the symbolism, and we do believe we get something out of that symbolism, right? So here's some rituals that SBT does. Anybody else want to talk about this concept of rites and rituals within SBT and maybe point out some that I'm missing? Every Sunday, listening to the monk talk all day long. Wangmo.
Yeah, I think taking my Bodhisattva vows and lay ordained vows were extraordinarily important for me and very life-changing for me.
How about your sash?
Yeah, wearing my sash. Yeah, exactly.
Now, some secular people were really against them and the idea that, what's the point? And it's a religious thing. But I bet after wearing that for a few years, you really start to see the point, right? When I'm in my robes, when I walk outside, it's a big deal. It's a uniform, right? And one thing it does, it forces me to live up to this thing of being a monk. Sadly, I can't go into the grocery store and yell at cashiers for not taking my coupons. It just doesn't look good when the monk is, that's a joke. But but there's a real world benefit from these things. It's nice to just look at them logically while you're sitting in your room saying what is it, what is it. It's a whole other thing when you're engaging in the world. When I engage in my robes, there's something that goes on that's very, very powerful, and something that I have to live up to. It's not me thinking I'm special. Look at me, I'm special. Sometimes it's quite the opposite. Sometimes that obligation, that to hold myself to that, can be challenging and, of course, extraordinary for my practice. Boy, I got a lot to say today, don't I? Dana, what do you think of rites and rituals? Do you think there's a place for them in secular Buddhism?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You sound like Robert De
Well,
Niro.
Yeah, that's what
Hey.
I said. Like the the meditation, the introduction to meditation, doing that together as a ritual. I'm not into the names and the sashes and stuff. I think that's, for me, that doesn't work. But doing things together and not separate.
Yeah, that's right. And but that's perfectly fine for everyone to have their own view and comfort level at them all. We with SBT, we always say that none of these things are requirements. We offer them to people who think that it'll benefit their path. Like refuge, we've never had a thought that people should take refuge. We just offer it for those people that believe that that ritual is beneficial to them. And for many of them, myself, my monastic ordination was truly the greatest experience of my life. It was life-changing. So each one of us is allowed to make those choices. Excuse me. David, please.
I was just wondering what traditionally the Buddha thought about rites and rituals. I know he wasn't very keen on statues of himself and offerings have been made to him, but I don't know. Did he advocate some rites and rituals that are relevant?
And to be honest, in one of the 10 fetters, 10 obstacles to meditation, obstacles to awakening, is holding rites and rituals, but it's being attached to rites and rituals. So the Buddha has rites and rituals. The Buddha has monks wearing robes. There's a uniform. The Buddha does sojong, or vow purification, twice a month. There's lots and lots. There's an immense amount of rites and rituals. How you use your alms bowl, how everyone does alms rounds in the morning. You have to be barefoot. You have to be silent. So it's just immense. But at the same time, he warns people against being overly attached to rites and rituals. That's why I never learned the 10 fetters when I was in Tibetan Buddhism. They kind of skirt them. They don't teach them to us because they're so attached to rites and rituals. I think they overdo it a bit with the deities and the mandalas and, oh man, so ritualized. Hey, I'm running late. Let's wind things up. When secular Buddhism goes too far, in some circles, the secular ideal towards Buddhism can be taken to the extreme, creating a kind of secular Buddhist dogma where teachers dictate what one is required to believe or not to believe, a view that often rejects anything remotely resembling religious belief. This often leads to the outright rejection of any rites, rituals, ceremonies, symbolism, some practices, or cultural customs that are deemed religious. A view that potentially turns the Buddhist path into a dry and overly rational presentation, losing sight of the joyful, radiant path taught by the Buddha. Furthermore, I believe it's also a mistake to reject the significance of Buddhism's rich history, cultural heritage, and accumulated wisdom. And then in the text, I also talk about, well, exactly what's the difference between religious and spiritual. I'm just going to share a couple here. But ultimately, it comes down to your intention, right? You could, so say you like to recite mantras with mala beads, right? Those little beads. If you believe you'll win favor with a deity by doing so, that's religious. However, if you use the method for pacifying your monkey mind in order to encourage inner, wonderful, benevolent qualities, this is spiritual. Or those who maintain an altar at home. If you use it to make offerings to someone or something to bring benefit to you, that's religious. If you use it as a focal point for your virtue and commitment to your practice, as a tool for focusing and deepening your awareness and intentions, that's spiritual. It's our intention and perspective that distinguishes religious from spiritual, and what distinguishes us as secular Buddhists. And that intention is always yours. You're the one that has the freedom. SBT can't tell people what spirituality necessarily is. We can try to define it to help people understand it, but ultimately, it's up to you how you feel about it. So as a secular Buddhist teacher, I find I'm uneasy with those who prescribe what others should think, do, or believe. No less troubling are those who dictate who's qualified as a proper secular Buddhist. Such attitudes risk creating that same form of dogma that we're all turning to secular Buddhism to avoid. As a monk, I have many secular Buddhists tell me that I can't be a secular Buddhist because I'm in robes. For SBT, we embrace the concept of spirituality and spiritual beauty within our community. This includes fully supporting our members who wish to openly express their spirituality in whatever manner that they feel best aids in their awakening. I've also envisioned secular Buddhism not as a fixed ideology, but instead as a spectrum of views ranging from more traditional Buddhist views at one end and fully secular views, non-religious, at the other. A spectrum that provides the freedom for each practitioner to navigate and choose where on that spectrum they wish to engage. Secular Buddhism should be seen as an oasis of free thinking and spiritual fellowship, an inclusive and nurturing movement that welcomes a diversity of views while fostering inquiry, curiosity, and wonder, a place for practitioners to find their own truth while respecting and supporting the truths of others. Wow, I wrote that really good. Yay! Hey, that's my count for today. What do you guys think? Pretty cool? Is that, well, here's a better question. Do you guys think that that's kind of the mission statement for SBT? Do you think we have our spot? And does everybody agree with that? Most of that? Is
Love
that pretty,
it.
yeah?
Love it.
Big thumbs up, huh? So that'll be our SBT approach to all these subjects. And if you notice, it's kind of a non-approach. It's kind of, we're just saying, hey, it's cool. You can do anything you want to. But what it is our curriculum sticks to more of a middle ground, that so we don't offend anybody at either side. But wonderful. Hey, thanks everybody for joining me. I thought it was a fascinating topic. Next week we're going to talk about the general principles that most secular Buddhists go for, right? Follow. You like all those caveats I put in? The possible things they made. That's SBT. We're always putting those in because we don't want to tell people, we don't want dogma, we don't want to tell people what is. With that said, I'm going to end today's class with an altruistic affirmation. May all be healthy, may all be prosperous, may all be well, may all be present, free of past regret and future worry. May all abide in constant appreciation, which is the source of great joy and contentment. May all realize their true nature and the true nature of reality, which is awakening. Thanks for joining me. I had a blast. Good seeing you, friends.
Thank you so much.